Everywhere you go, especially if you're a bimbler like me, there are listed buildings, just like Rossall Hall behind me. It's a private school, so we can't get in. You have the ancient churches and the quaint old cottages. But what about the strange stuff? The small stuff? The objet d'art? The curiously listed? Well, Fleetwood has loads of things like that. Let's bimble. There's always someone with a noisy contraption every time I try and do one of these videos. As soon as I get the camera out, there's a tractor cutting the grass.
Minimal forces that grew magnetically brought me to you. Visions that cut through the cold to my heart. Feelings of warmth now resume. Feeling that coming from you. Bursting to blow at the seams of my heart. As if this was love that I felt. Falling for somebody else. Taking my eyes from the ground. Turning my heart upside down. As if this could change all the past. Fixing the bruise from the last time that I felt anything. As if this was love that I felt. As if this was somebody else. Out some colourful sparks, brought back to light from the dark, broke out in shimmering waves to my heart. Sepia tint but the same, familiar in simplified ways, broke down the lily white scars to my heart. As if this was love that I felt. Falling for somebody else. Taking my eyes from the ground. Turning my heart upside down. As if this could change all the past. Fixing the bruise from the last time.
Not our usual type of curiously listed church, this one, bimblers. It's much more modern than the ones that we usually visit. St Nicholas's Church here in Fleetwood was built between 1960 and 1962, and it was designed by a chap called Lawrence King. He finished off Blackburn Cathedral when a William Adam Forsyth died. We're going to have to pay it a visit, and Blackburn as well. Lawrence King was a very prolific post-war architect, but he mostly worked down south in Essex and London. That's where he was from. He designed St Nicholas's Church to look like an upturned ship, to reflect Fleetwood's maritime past, although I'm not really seeing it, but I do like it. It's the second St Nicholas's Church to be built on this site, and the third St Nicholas's Church to be built in Fleetwood, and it was only listed in 2023, grade 2, so that's curious in itself. Let's bimble.
As if this was love that I felt. As if this was somebody else. Love that I felt, falling for somebody else, taking my eyes from the ground, turning my heart upside down.
As soon as I get my camera out, bimblers, someone starts using a noisy contraption. Just started talking to you, then they get the tractor out cutting the grass. Memorial Park here in Fleetwood was opened in 1917 to commemorate the men of Fleetwood that died in the First World War. And with it being called Memorial Park, it does have a war memorial, grade 2 listed. It was designed by a chap called Herbert Tyson Smith, and this is the third time we've mentioned him on a curiously listed bimble. He designed the War Memorial in Victoria Park in Widnes and the War Memorial in Birkenhead, and he also designed the Cenotaph in Liverpool outside of St George's Hall, opposite Lime Street Station. That featured in an episode of Peaky Blinders, so we covered it in our Peaky Bimble as well. But it's not just the War Memorial here in Memorial Park that's Grade 2 listed. You have the entrance archway. It was apparently designed by Thomas Gallen Lum. He designed Fleetwood Pier, but unfortunately that burnt down in 2008. But it was built in 1910, and it was supposed to be the last of the pleasure piers built in the UK. All the rest of them built after that, just replacing an existing pier that had probably burnt down. But this isn't the only park here in Fleetwood. There's at least 2 other ones with curiously listed structures in. Let's bimble.
As if this could change all the past, fixing the bruise from the last time that I felt anything. As if this was love that I felt, as if this was somebody else.
This is the Mount, the original park here in Fleetwood, built on a giant sand dune. Here at the Mount you'll find 2 curiously listed structures, both designed by Decimus Burton. He designed quite a lot of the buildings here in Fleetwood, as you're about to find out. He's known for designing parts of Hyde Park and Kew Gardens and London Zoo. But just like Lawrence King, he didn't do a lot of work up north. It's all here in Fleetwood. Decimus Burton designed the entrance to the Mount, which I think is the Citizens Advice Bureau now, or at least it was. And he also designed this, the Pavilion, which used to be a pagoda, but they changed it to the Pavilion to use it as a flag station for the ships coming into the port of Fleetwood. But somebody must have asked Decimus Burton to design all these buildings. I think we need to go and find out who asked him to do them. So we need to go to another park. Let's bimble.
Maybe it didn't work at the time, maybe it never did. A mistake that made the distance, or a trying way to live. Maybe it's the time that you grabbed at my arms and electricity.
Here in Euston Park you'll find a statue of the man who invented Fleetwood. He liked it so much he put his name on it. Sir Peter Hesketh Fleetwood, one of my heroes. He was a member of the very affluent Hesketh family, who basically owned the whole of the Lancashire coast. They used to live at Rosshall Hall, or Rosshall School as it is these days, where we started out today's bimble. Fleetwood was actually his father's paternal grandmother's maiden name, and he was allowed to use the name Fleetwood by royal ascension. He was a politician, the High Sheriff of Lancashire, and the MP for Preston in 1847. He was one of the very first dignitaries to ride on the Manchester to Liverpool Railway. That's the first steam-powered intercity railway in the world. And that gave him an idea. What about a railway to the seaside? Sir Peter Hesketh Fleetwood invented the Seaside Special. You know how much I like that. Coming on the train to the seaside, then riding my bike up and down the prom. His initial idea was just to bring the Victorians to promenade up and down the front, but somebody pointed out to him that it would be a ghost town in the winter, and the people who lived in Fleetwood wouldn't have any jobs. So somebody else suggested that he made Fleetwood into a port, and that way the people of Fleetwood would have jobs all year round. They were actually going to call Fleetwood New Liverpool. He had very lofty ideas. But in the end, he very modestly named it after himself and his great-grandma. Before he built the town of Fleetwood, this was all sand dunes where the rabbits lived. And that's why on the statue, there's a rabbit, you know, in between his feet, complete with bronze rabbit droppings. The railway opened in 1840, and it brought people from London all the way up to Fleetwood, at which point they would board ships to go up to Scotland before the railways got up there. That's the reason why the hotel behind me is called the North Euston Hotel, because this was the last stop, and the first stop was Euston Station in London. Of course, the hotel was built at the behest of Sir Peter Hesketh Fleetwood, but it was designed by Decimus Burton, Grade 2 listed. But is there anything curiously listed here in Euston Park? Well, yes, there's a cast iron drinking fountain, Grade 2. Let's bimble. If you're having a port, you need ships, and if you're having ships, you need a lighthouse. In this case, 2 Grade 2 listed lighthouses. They were both designed by Decimus Burton, and according to my big book of Bimble, a Captain Henry Mangles Denham. You have Lower Lighthouse, or Beach Lighthouse, on the front, and you have Upper Lighthouse, or Pharaoh's Lighthouse, further inland. The idea behind having 2 lighthouses is if you're out to sea, you can get them lined up, and that shows you where the channel into the river is and into the port. That would mean you wouldn't get stuck on the sandbanks and run aground. Captain Denham knew all about sandbanks because he sorted out the port of Liverpool and the mouth of the Niger River in Nigeria. These lighthouses used to be painted white and red, you know, all stripy, like you would expect a lighthouse. But in the 1970s, they stripped it back to the bare sandstone, which is in fact Runcorn sandstone, in case you're interested. Clearly Sir Peter Hesketh Fleetwood and Captain Denham were very close friends, because Captain Denham named his son Fleetwood James Denham. The last piece of the puzzle, if you're going to have a port, is you need a radar station. And here in Fleetwood, they've got one of them, Grade 2 listed. It was designed by an Eric Morris Hart and a Robert Booth, who both worked for Lancashire County Council. It was built in the 1960s, and the style shows that. Looks like something from the Jetsons, or somewhere that Hugh Hefner would live. It was actually sold off in 2024 for £97,000. Bit of a bargain if you ask me. They make a brilliant cafe or a chip shop, but apparently the fella that's bought it is going to live in it. But speaking of chip shops, let's... Thank you very much. Thank you. That's everything. Thank you. Grade 1 listed fish and chips from my favourite chippy. Thanks Sir Peter Hesketh Fleetwood. Well, I made light work of that Bimblism. Still my favourite chip shop. Don't think the chips are as good as they used to be, but the fish is delicious. Still the best chip shop in Fleetwood. If there'd have been willow pattern on that plate, I'd have bet that as well. There's no point in unlocking big Longshanks for this journey. It's only just up there. Walk off this fish and chips. It's not really all that curious that a building like this would be listed, Grade 2, but its history is very important to Fleetwood. It was once again designed by Decimus Burton for Sir Peter Heske of Fleetwood, and it was opened in 1836 as the customs house for the port of Fleetwood. That shifted to another one of these terraced houses on this road, and this became the private residence of an Alexander Carson. That was in 1879. In 1889, it became the town hall for Fleetwood. You can still see on the sign above, but it says Town Hall, really faded in the sandstone. For a short period, it was a private school, but in 1992, it became Fleetwood Museum, which is a very good museum. But we've come on a Monday, and it's closed. We weren't going to go in anyway.